Greetings, friends and future friends. Today's video is on the Korg Nautilus. Now, what I want to show you today is the combination mode. Now, you saw a little glimpse of the combination mode in the last video we did when I showed you how I use the Korg Nautilus in my MIDI configuration. But today we're going to have a little bit more in-depth view of that combination mode. So let's get in the studio and see how those things work. All right, we have the Korg Nautilus all started up, and we have the mode screen. And where we're going to go today is the combinations. Now, again, I'll repeat what I said before in the previous videos. My first button on the quick access is my set list. My quick access B button is programs, and my quick access C button is combinations, which really makes things a lot easier to navigate around. All right, let's head over to combinations. Now, this is a combination I created called Love's Rock In. I modified it. And what we have is basically the status, play, mute. And it's pretty easy, solo, mute. Now, when you solo this, you're going to be soloing that. And if you mute it, of course, it's going to be muted out. But one thing that's really cool is, because I want to mute all these, because we're just going to deal with this channel here. So if we mute these all, we have nothing. But if we solo it, the solo will override the mute. Now you say, what advantage is that? Well, you just saw what I've done here. I took and I muted out the first 6 tracks. So now if I want to check things, or channel 3, but if I want to see what channel 3 and 1 sound like together, so it's pretty handy. And know that in this situation, the solo will override the mute. Okay, the next 2 icons, 2 buttons to push, is this button down here called Timbre Status. And what this is off, internal, external, external. So if we go to off, you're going to see that it deletes that block. So that sound on that block and that channel is gone. Now, if you've had a sound in there, if you hit the plus, it'll usually come back. So, and that's one thing that's handy. It took me a while to figure that out, because if you get into this creating of a combination, you get all these sounds in here and it gets confusing. Sometimes you want to go back and eliminate some of those sounds, and that way you can have a combination that's a little bit more easier to use. You can just hit off and it gets rid of it. Then hit the plus, brings it right back. Okay, I'm now going to show you how you can have the Korg Nautilus transmit in different channels and work to play different synthesizers on different channels. So what we're going to do now, we know that this is on 1G. That means the keyboard is actually transmitting and receiving on channel 1. So let's change that. So first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to go to here and we're going to change that MIDI channel to 2. Then we're going to go to our MIDI setup, hit MIDI, and we're going to have the Korg Nautilus broadcast in 2 and receive in 2, in channel 2. Then we'll go back to our combination. Now we can see it already says O2G, and if we, so let's actually mute all these so we know what we're doing. So if we unmute this and we play it, so basically the Nautilus is sending out a signal through channel 2 and receiving it in channel 2. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go over to here, and let's mute that and unmute this. Make this external and change this channel to 1. Now what this should do is broadcast channel 1 and send a signal to my synth little module, and should play that sound. If we mute it, it's not playing. And if we unmute this, so already you can see how this is really cool, because what's basically happening, and if I unmute both of them, what's happening here is that the keyboard, the Nautilus, is broadcasting a signal of O2 on channel 2, which we go back and we check the MIDI.
It's broadcasting out on channel 2. Go back to our combinations. And because the Korg Nautilus is receiving on channel 2, this sound is able to play. And again, because we see O2G means that, hey, the Nautilus is transmitting and receiving on channel 2, and it's playing this internal sound. But it's also going out and on channel 1, which the module that I have is being triggered by channel 1. I have it set to channel 1. It's now playing that synth module. And if we unmute both of them, so now what did we just do? We took sound block 1 and sent it out to go to channel 2, which the Korg Nautilus is actually transmitting and receiving, and it's playing the internal sound. And on block 2, this sound is going out externally, and it's playing on channel 1. And again, if we play that sound, this is the sound module, the Alesis sound module. And if we play block 1, this is the sound inside the Korg Nautilus. And if we unmute both of them, we're playing both sounds at the same time. This will allow you to send out different MIDI signals per sound to different modules, as long as they're on different channels. But again, that's with the, when you bring this up, internal, external. Okay, on this block volume, it's kind of self-explanatory. These are the volumes of each sound block. And right here would be the pan, if you wanted to pan it left or right. And then up here would be the selection of the sound, if you want to create, change the sound or bring in another sound, and then make sure you hit OK. And then that'll change the sound. And up here, 9 through 16, now in this combination, we have no other sounds than just 1 through 8. And that's pretty self-explanatory. You'll know how to use that, just like a mixer. And sometimes while you're playing, you might want to keep this up, and you can adjust things while you're playing. Now down here, the performance meter, just like I showed you in program mode, tells you what's going on with the Nautilus. I've never really looked at this much because most of the time the Korg Nautilus is playing pretty good. But I would imagine if you load up this combination with a lot of sound blocks, you might want to keep an eye on that. Now, this is the quick layer. Now this quick layer and the quick split, I really don't use at all, because if you look back at how a combination is set up and you go back and you look at the mixer, you already have the layers all split up like this. It's a lot easier to do it that way, than going back to the quick split. Now you have to adjust things. And a lot of the adjustments I found in this quick split don't really follow back through, or don't change anything when you're back in the actual combination. So I like using the combination in this mode. Now, in program mode, a quick split and a quick layer might have an advantage. But when you're in combinations, you have all the access to all this stuff right here. So I really don't use those two. Now, the next thing is the ARP and drum. And as I explained in the program mode, you come up here and there's all kinds of things you can do with this. When you're in the drum mode, this down here will get you the drum track that you want. And again, the big thing is scene, whatever scene this is in. So if we're in scene 1, you make all these adjustments. This is the drum track that you can adjust. And this is the arpeggio track. And if you're in scene 2 or scene 3, whatever scene you're in, these adjustments can be made. So you can actually see, look in scene 2, this B arpeggio is latched, and it's not in scene 1. So all these are adjustments you can make. And if you go into all this stuff, instrument list, there's a lot of stuff that you can change in here. Again, it's preference. It's just things. There's so much stuff you can adjust and change in here. If you want to go back and take a look at that, that's great. But basically, and if we go back out of settings, sometimes if you're performing, you can actually do this. And if you're playing a drum track, you can go to this drum track, to this drum track, this drum track, just like you could do in the program mode. Now, tone adjust. Like I said in the program mode when I was explaining to it, this is incredible. I love this because where the Kronos is superior to the Nautilus, it has all these sliders and buttons on the deck of the keyboard. Where here, if you go to tone adjust, these are switches. So you can actually assign 16 switches that go on and off, filter on and off. You can transpose on and off. And these are buttons that you can use during your performance. And if we go to sliders 1 through 8, pitch stretch. You have your pitch stretch. So probably not working with the external sound, but these are all adjustments. And again, if you go up here to settings, you can come up, check on this, and these are all the parameters that you can change to make that slider do this or do that. You know, the LFO waveform, triangle, whatever. Right here, you can make that adjustment with that slider live. So, and again, you have 9 through 17 sliders. So, and all in all, you have 16 buttons you can create that can create 16 switches that can turn something on, turn something off. And again, if we go up here, we can go to tune, reverse, waveform. I mean, there's so many options you can go into to make this switch go on and off. It's going to make that thing work. And then the sliders, same way. So this is a function in the Korg Nautilus that I don't think anybody takes advantage of because it's awesome. Where again, the Kronos has all this on the deck of the keyboard you can touch. Well, right here in the Nautilus, it has all those same functions, only now it's in the screen. And then you can adjust it. Now, when you get out of it, you know, out of the edit, it locks this so you won't be able to, so if you're touching it while you're playing, you won't set anything off. But you can move these things up and down while you're playing. It's really a great function. This tone adjust down here. Really a great function. Okay, when you're in combinations, you hit page, brings you up to this screen. So right here, we can go into EQ, Timbre EQ. If we go into that, again, how you get there is you're in combinations. You're in combinations, you hit page, you go EQ, XY controllers. Now you can actually EQ each band, each sound block. And you can see, you can go in here and change all the thing. XY volume, this is giving you how much emphasis is on X and Y. A lot of information here to play with. It would take a long time to explain everything, but stuff, and same with XYCC and all that, and the envelope, what the envelope looks like in the X and Y, and your controllers, you know, what you can do, the knobs, and create your switches, and how you can create different things to do with the knobs and different things with the switches. But back to this Timbre EQ, this is really awesome, because then you can actually go in there and EQ each sound. Even though you can adjust the sound, you can also come out and EQ it. Okay, now let's go to MIDI filters and zones. Now, let's actually go back to combinations first, and let's solo this sound. So sound 4 and sound 1. Now let's go to page, MIDI filters and zones. Now you can see what's happening here on the enable damper. So if we go and we enable a damper on the 4th sound, and I hit the damper pedal, it just seems to feed back. The sound isn't there. I mean, that sound just doesn't sound good when you have the damper pedal pushed because, you know, it just keeps feeding back and makes a lot of volume increase. But we want it on the piano. So if we take it off the piano, but if we put it back on the piano, now you can hear the resonance of that piano sound, yet that synth sound is real quick. It only plays when I'm pushing down on the key. Now without the damper pedal, but if I push the damper pedal down, So this is a really handy screen. So again, that would be when you're in the page, MIDI filters. And there's all different things. Okay, now like this has the enable program, enable aftertouch, damper, all this stuff, enable JSC, all this stuff, yada yada. The MIDI filter 2, enable real-time control knob 2, yeah, all these different things. So actually, if you can control, you have a knob that's working for one thing, you can actually enable it or disable it for each channel. And MIDI 3, again, this is the enable switch 1, switch 2, enable foot switch, enable foot pedal, all these other messages. So you have MIDI filter 3. Now keyboard zones is really important, because what you can do is go down here in each one of these lines. And so right now I have a bass line. So now all 16 sounds that you could bring into this combination, you can actually bring it into the zone. So right now you can see up here, I have the zone. And if we go to bass guitar right here, okay, and watch this yellow line, you can see that yellow line going down or going up. And we're going to bring it right up to the keyboards. And now what we've done is so what's happening is the keyboards from G9 to C4, C4 to G9, C4 to G9, and then the bass guitar is actually going C1 to B3. And that's really cool, because now you can actually separate this. And in all fairness, what you could do if you wanted to in a performance type situation, you could actually narrow down. So you could make this part of the keyboard play the bass and just one keyboard, this part play just one keyboard, and actually break down 16 different sounds in little zones if you wanted to. You can actually go down, B3, you can go down to the next note down, which would be a C sharp 3. So this is really a helpful thing, this zone. That way you can put things differently in different zones and help you out in your performance. Now the velocity zones are the same thing. It's talking about limiting the velocity. If you don't want, say you're playing and you don't want that key to have the same loudness, the same velocity hit, you can adjust it in this screen. I usually leave it on 0 to 127, because if I'm going to adjust the velocity or the sound, it's usually in the sound itself. But you can do that right here. All right, back to the page screen. And if we go to IFX, now what this is doing is basically sending out an effects. So routing 1. So we have routing 1, we can see what's going out where, channel 7's going to 4, channel 4 is actually going to 3, and they all seem to go out to left and right. And if we go to routing 2, it's basically the same thing. We're showing different things. Insert effects. Now this is where you can come in and you go, okay, right here, if I tap on that, I can bring up an effect that I want to bring in there and adjust it. Now what it's doing is going straight across. If I chain it and I touch that right there, now you're going to see that effects 1 goes into effects 2. And then what it's doing right now is going out left and right. And down here, all these different effects. You can see they're all going straight across. And then effects 1 through 12. Now, if we go back to insert effects, you're going to see that we have effects 1, 2, 3, and 4. And actually, we have an effects down here on 12, too. So when you go to effects down here, effects 1 through 12, what that's going to do is bring up, so now when you brought up effects 1, that's a stereo limiter. These are all the parameters you can change in the stereo limiter. We go to effects 2, the stereo compressor. If we go to effects 5, you can see there's no effects, so there's no parameters to change. Go down here to 12, stereo limiter. These are all the parameters you can change in that. So this is the effects. This is the routing 1 and 2. Now, usually what happens is when you go into different channels, we go into routing 1, you're going to see that this goes into effects. But what we can also do is look at when we go over to here. Now, you'll see that it says effects, one left and right effects. This is basically the first change. So if we go to effects 1 and go left and right, we'll go down here, maybe go 1 and 2. Now you're going to see that it's not going to effects 1. And go back over here and go back to effects 1. Now you're going to see it goes to effects 1. So now this is primarily where that sound's going to go. Instantly, it's going to go to effects 1. But again, we could download it. If we go, we can make go to whatever we want, 3/4. We can actually turn it off, 1, 2. Or we can make it go to left and right. Now you're going to see that that line coming up at 1 is gone. If we go back to effects 1, now you can see that line is back up again. And you can see as we tap on these, you're going to see that how they go. You can see now effects 3, there's nothing on effects 3. So basically the signal's coming out of here and then going directly to left and right. Now insert effects, this is different because left and right over here, you can see this is going to left and right. But this is going to left and right after the effects. So if we go back to routing, so on channel 1, block 1, it's going up, going over to effects 1, and then going out to left and right. And if we go to insert effects, you can see it. It goes to left and right. And then again here, you could change that. You know, if we go down here and we'll find out, let's go back to routing. Go back to the routing, and you can see drum kit right here, left and right. If we go, that's on, looks like it's on 8. So if we go to insert effects, go down to 8, we could actually come across to 8 and change this to 1 and 2. Now the drums are actually going to go out the output of channels 1 and 2 of the Korg Nautilus. And of course we made it 3 and 4 out, or we could actually turn it off. We'll make it go back to left and right for this example here. So this is something, the routing, the first step of the routing, where are you going to send it? To an effects, you're going to send it to an effects, or you're going to send it to left and right, or wherever. And then once you've created effects, you go to effects. Once you've inserted an effects, then where's it going to go? Again, you can pan this left and right. You can do everything like that and all that. So, and effects 1 through 12 is actually showing you the actual effects and what it is, the parameters to it. And this is just something for the common effects LFO. If you're going to go in there and create an LFO to trigger some effects, you might want to play with that. I never really do. All right, timbre parameter. When we click to this, now MIDI, just telling you what's going on with the MIDI. And basically, you can do a lot of these adjustments in that first screen. The oscillator, there's different oscillators being used. You can see both. This is something, but it's all part of a program. You can see there are programs in each one of these sound blocks. Pitch, you can actually change the pitch of each one of these sound blocks right in here, and it makes it handy. If you range, the transpose, if you want to transpose up here, transpose, detune a little bit, I think, you know, or bend range if you don't want it to bend only to a certain degree. The delay time, if you want this sound to come in a little slower or whatever, you can set the time, you know, and if you go to here and set that time, or that you can bring it to tempo. And wave sequence, this is back to program. You can see programs on just about all of these because it's built into the program. And again, I would not make adjustments here in the combinations. If I had a sound I wanted to change the parameters, I'd actually change it in the sound itself. And audio input, if there's some type of audio input that's coming in, you know, to change the sound. I really don't use this much either because, again, if I want to alter that sound, I can go in and alter the sound in the block and then save it as a program and then bring it into the combination when I need it. And then the last thing when you hit page is master effects and total effects. Again, as I said, in program mode, You know, you have your master effects up here and where they go, and you can change the directions. If you come over here, you can have it going from Master Effects 1 into Master Effects 2. So if we click on that, we're going to actually have it coming into Master Effects 1 and Master Effects 2. And you know, the level, or you can have it going from Master Effects 2 to Master Effects 1. These are the master effects, the returns left and right, and then total effects over everything are right here. And then the master volume of that. And then basically what you're doing when you hit master effects, this is the master effects. Master effects 2 was the second effects, because if we go back to routing, this is MFX1, MFX2, and there's MFX1, MFX2, and these are the two total. Well, total effects, you know, and then total effects 2, there is one. If we go back, you can see TFX2 is off. So when we go to TFX2, there's no parameters to adjust. So this is basically adjusting the master effects and the total effects of the whole keyboard after the combination. Now there's one more thing I want to show you. I hinted about it in the last video on program mode. But if we're in program mode and we're into, if I go to my set list actually, got classic piano. So we go to program mode. And we have this program we're playing. Really cool. If we go to quick split, you're going to see down here it says right to combination. So basically we have a split where we got the really cool. We have a bass on the bottom end and we have a keyboard on the top. So what you can do is down in this area right here, you can say right to combination. So what we can do is we can go in there now. What I'm going to do is go over here and click on this. And I'm going to go to E, because we already did this. And we're going to go E16. So I think is where I saved it, E16. Go OK. Now, I just changed that. Now, you could do, what you probably want to do if you're just doing it would be initial combination. This would be a blank. But I created this. This was a blank, but I'm just going to click on that. Okay. So now we're going to do that. And we're going to go OK. Everything's set up. And go OK. Now, when I do OK, what it's going to do is it's going to create a combination. Exit out of this. Go to combinations. Go up here. Go to E. And where is it? We'll bring it down. Where's our 16? Where is it at? There it is. 16. Okay. Now this is the combination we just created from the so if we go back to program, here's the program. And the quick split was this. But if we go to our combinations, exit out of this, go to our combinations, this is the combination we just created from the program. So how do we do that again? And go back, show you real quick. You're in this program, you like it, you go to quick split, or you can go to quick layer. Go to quick split, right down here it says right to combination. You click on that. It takes you to this screen, you find out where you want to send it. Now we already did that. And what it'll do is it'll create a combination, and this is what it looks like. You have two sounds, and if you look at the volume, you know they're both up, but the other thing is play status. And if we look at how this thing is set up, we go into, we go into zones, which is really cool. I love this. Keyboard zones. You can see where the if we go over here, you're going to see how the keyboard is set from C4 to G9, and the bass guitar is set from B3 to C1. It's already set up for you, which is really cool, because right here, if we look, here's one. There's one. There's the keyboard setting in the yellow, and boom, here's the bass in there. So when you went to that split mode, it already set stuff up, and now basically we'll go back to this combination. Then I can come in here and I can go add all kinds of different things I want to do to this. You know, we'll go back here, go back to this, go back, turn this off. But it's really a cool function. I think it's another awesome function. You know, you can go into your program, hit quick layer, write it to a combination, and boom, it spits it out as a combination, and it creates a combination with everything all set aside.
So I hope this video gave you a little bit more information on how to use the combination mode in the Korg Nautilus. There's a lot of things you can do in that mode. Also, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please subscribe. You'll help us grow the channel. That way we can bring you more cool stuff. So take care, my friends, and thanks for watching.